What up, Michael?
What is up, Mr. Rick?
How are you, brother? Welcome back to the Dirt Road, everybody. Oh, you were going to say it?
No, you say it. No, you already said it. Well,
no, you say it.
Welcome back to the Dirt Road, Mr. Rick.
We just changed our outfits, and we're pretending like it's a new day because this video will post the day after the last one we did. So you think anybody falls for that crap?
No, I'm a dirtbag. I'm wearing the same outfit. So
you didn't even change?
Just pretend I didn't change. Pretend I didn't change because I'm a dirtbag and not because it's the same day.
I changed. I'm a little chilly anyway. Anyway, Mike, I had a good day today because I love starting my day off with a laugh, and it's very rare. But that's why in the mornings I usually I'll watch reruns of an old sitcom or something after I watch Sports Center. Just try to get myself in a good mood. Rarely do I laugh at a newspaper article. Guys, bear with me. I have to read you just 4 quick paragraphs from a front page article in the Wall Street Journal this morning. All right, and I want to see if you laugh at the same point that I just literally started laughing, spitting out my fucking coffee laughing. That's how funny I thought it was. So this is about, in case you guys don't know, in Syria, we're back in action now. So, it's connected with Ukraine and all of that sort of stuff. So now the rebels, who are the good guys in our mind, in Syria, have retaken the city of Aleppo, which the Assad government had cleared out a couple of years back.
Right.
There's been relative peace in Syria, but not really. I mean, there's some things going on.
But not like a full-on civil war anymore.
No, not like it was 5 years ago, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's kind of tamped down, and then it was kind of a surprise, right, to everybody except our State Department and Defense Department, I guess.
Because they funded it.
Yeah, but it was kind of a surprise that these rebels, out of nowhere, just regrouped, and to the point where they ran the Syrian government
out of Aleppo,
out of Aleppo, which is a big
prize.
Yeah, it's a big prize. So there was an article about it this morning in the Wall Street Journal because it just happened. So I got to read this to you. So here it goes. The title is Syrian Rebel Leader Charted Unlikely Path. Now remember, the Syrian rebel leader, they're the good guys in our minds, right? That these are the American-backed people. So Abu Mohammad al-Jolani boarded a bus in Damascus in March 2003, headed across the desert to Baghdad with fellow volunteers eager to repel the looming American invasion of Iraq. In other words, to shoot at your ass.
Yes, he did.
When he returned home in 2011 after a 5-year stint in an American-run prison camp in Iraq. So he was our prisoner. In Iraq. Why was he our prisoner? Because he was shooting at your ass.
Mujahideen that was fighting against us there. Yes.
So when he returned to Iraq, it was, ready for this, as the emissary of the Islamic State founder Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. The guy that Trump whacked.
Yeah, right? Al-Baghdadi.
So he was al-Baghdadi's right-hand man. He was his emissary. That was his new job. He was second in command of ISIS. People who were shooting at other people's asses after you got home.
Okay? The ones that Trump spent all that time demolishing.
Right. So
after Obama and
Trump whacked this guy's boss. Yeah. Okay. Last week, the 42-year-old Jolani triumphantly entered Aleppo, Syria's second largest city, as the leading commander of the Turkish-backed rebel force dominated by his group called Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. The group We Back.
Mm-hmm.
Unexpected and swift. His victory marks one of the most dramatic moments in the Middle East that had no shortage of drama. Compared in its shock value and strategic importance, the Islamic State seizure of Iraq's second-largest city of Mosul in 2014, the fall of Aleppo has been very different so far. So again, the same guy and the same group that was part of the fight in Mosul now is in Aleppo. Far from engaging in a murderous spree against religious minorities, the hallmark of Baghdadi's self-proclaimed caliphate, Jolani issued edicts ordering the protection of Christians and Shiites and demanded that his men not exact retribution. Quote, this is a quote from this man, "In the future Syria, we believe that diversity is our strength, not a weakness," there's the laugh, said the latest such decree on Monday. There have been no reports of massacres in Aleppo so far, and Jolani's HTS has allowed encircled Kurdish forces to leave unharmed. So, what did you laugh at there? The second in command of ISIS says In the future, Syria, we believe that diversity is our strength, not a weakness. You tell me that wasn't written by Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden. That is literally word for word what they say.
Oh my God.
So, in other words, come on, a couple of hundred beheadings? Don't worry about it. Diversity is our strength.
The real title of this article should be DEI comes for ISIS.
Yeah, exactly.
What the fuck is that?
What the fuck is that? That's the deal to get our money and
That's
our
exactly
weapons.
what it is, our weapons and money.
That's the deal. That's written. You really think a jihadist is going to say the words, diversity is our strength, not our weakness? Those are the words that's Nancy Pelosi's hallmark.
He's going to toe the line, right? He's going to do whatever they ask him to do until he gets power, right? So let's just say, for argument's sake,
the weapons on us.
Yeah, let's just say, for argument's sake, this guy pushes through. He knocks Assad out. He takes over Syria. He's got the whole Syrian, Syria's his now, and he's in charge. Do you really think they're not going to go back to throwing gay people off buildings, burning people alive?
Of course not. Diversity is their
anybody
strength.
that's not doing exactly what they want.
They're not going to do that, Mike. Diversity is their strength in the new Syria.
We built Al Qaeda. We built ISIS. We built all these terrorist organizations and funded them, promoted them, got them moving, and then act surprised when they bite the hand that feeds you. And you brought up an excellent point in this whole thing, in that, again, it's about fighting Russia, right? Because we have neocons that still think they're living in 1960s America, where we have to fight this Russian threat, supposedly. Mm-hmm. It's insane. That's just an excuse and a talking point. Anyone who actually believes that, first of all, is a psychopath. And the real reason is, we talked about this earlier, money.
Well, exactly. So that's look, this article, it didn't say it, but what this article is really saying is, in exchange for our money and weapons, you are going to say things like, diversity is the new strength of Syria.
And we get another puppet state for our deep state psychopaths to play with, and
So this was the second in command of ISIS, Mike.
Yeah.
Now he's our friend, and he's championing diversity. So when I was reading this morning, after I got done, I thought to myself, Hermann Goering must be rolling in his grave, because instead of having to take the arsenic so he wouldn't hang, all he had to do is go in front of the Nuremberg judges
and talk about diversity.
That's it. All he had to do is say, listen, in the new Germany, now that Hitler's gone, in the new Germany, because he was one of Hitler's right-hand men, just like this guy was the right-hand man of al-Baghdadi, right? All he had to do is say, listen, in the new Germany, diversity is our strength, not our weakness.
Oh, my God.
That's it. Listen, and then the man wouldn't know how to kill himself.
The Nazis would be thoroughly impressed with the ability of our deep state bureaucrats to inflict carnage upon the world.
It's unbelievable. I want anybody down in the comments, all right? And I don't want to know that Assad's a bad guy. I'm sure he's a bad guy. I'm sure this guy's a bad guy. I don't care.
He's a bad guy.
Can you please tell me why Syria is our enemy? Anybody? Why is Syria our enemy?
Nothing to do with us.
Nothing. Nothing at all. It's another proxy war against Russia. That's all it really is. Yeah. And listen, they're butting their noses in too. They're not exactly good guys there either. They're,
No, they've been there since the Civil War began, and since we first staged the Civil War against Assad. Russia's been there backing Assad and his forces since day one. Yeah. But it's all it is. It's Vietnam all over again, right? It's us versus the Russians using a country as a proxy to do it.
Sure.
So people in a country that has nothing to do with anything that's going on being killed for the very simple reason that we want to fight Russians.
And we're arming the people who shot you.
Yeah.
To do this.
Yeah.
And Mike, like we were saying upstairs, nobody gives a shit. They don't even hide this anymore. This is the front page of the Wall Street Journal.
They don't hide anything anymore. Look at Ukraine, right? More money going to Ukraine. All this other stuff's going on. Look at how everything is done on the world stage now, right? $1 billion to Africa for natural disasters. Meanwhile, people in North Carolina are still living in the Stone Age, right? Mm-hmm. They don't hide any of it anymore. This is all graft, because at the end of the day, what people have to realize, and what we want you to understand, and the whole reason for this podcast, and why we're doing this the way we're doing this, is to help educate you all and to help you kind of start to see this in a way that actually makes sense and bring back the attention that it deserves.
Well, or at least to get you thinking.
Yeah, or bring the attention back it deserves. I mean, look, people in North Carolina living in the Stone Age, he's giving $1 billion to Africa. Do you really think that money's not going to come back to the U.S.? It is. What's that $1 billion is going to go to? Some government officials will get a piece of that pie. Most of it will go to these non-governmental organizations that are being set up to help fund and improve these things and do this and do that. In reality is that money is being filtered right back to those very same people.
Well, those NGOs, by the way, those are the ones that fund the uprisings in these
Well,
countries.
that's what Central Intelligence does, right? That's what they've been doing since the Cold War.
Well, the CIA uses NGOs because they can't by law do it themselves, so
Right.
they pay the protesters. So
Look
one
at the
of
censorship
the reasons,
industrial complex, same thing. It's all NGOs being funded by the State Department, by our
course.
government, the Pentagon, CIA, to censor your speech on social media platforms with your tax dollars being sent to these organizations to do exactly that.
That's exactly right.
corruption.
And we're seeing that all over the place. So now when any kind of government tries to stop this, so Putin actually tried to stop this, passing a law that you have to register as a foreign agent if you're accepting money from these NGOs, because the protests in Moscow were backed by that.
Yep.
And now in the country of Georgia, the same thing is happening. All of a sudden, there's a grassroots uprising. And again, I don't give a shit what happens in Georgia. I don't care who Georgia, if they like Russia, if they like us, whatever. Let them do what they want.
It's their
but
country.
it's us
Funding it.
initiating this stuff.
And instigating it.
Right.
Yep.
So it's our NGOs, right and left, right? It's Soros funded.
There's no difference.
NGOs.
Neoliberal,
Not at all.
neoconservative. There's no difference at all anymore.
Not at all. So why is there this uprising in the country of Georgia? Because the government there passed the same law that Putin did a few years back, saying that if you accept money from these foreign NGOs, you have to register as a foreign agent. They didn't say we're going to throw you in jail. We just have to know where you're getting the money from.
Exactly.
And we don't want that.
Well, no, because it takes away our intelligence apparatus and our deep state's ability to try and affect things in other countries.
Right.
You know, stage these coups and stage all these other things. And
And
look what
affect their
happens.
elections.
We staged a coup in Ukraine in 2014, and look at the mess we've created now. How many millions of people have died from all these coups we've staged everywhere to try and so-called destabilize these governments or whatever else? You know, it's enough already. It's
And
enough.
that's why I don't know how Trump stops this. I don't even know if he can, because
he can.
we're so balls deep into this shit now. And I'm not just talking about Ukraine, but obviously that's the biggest one. But how? I don't even know if he really can. I don't even know if he really wants to. I don't even know if he really thinks about it in this way. But we are instigating these things. So
100%.
yeah, so we did, and again, I can't take this when they go, oh, you're a Putin puppet, you like Putin. What? No, it's not about that. It's I taught history for 32 years. I taught about wars. Every war I taught about, we looked at the reasons on both sides. We looked at how that relationship got to the point it was. Wars don't, this is not the 1500s. People don't attack other people just to kill them anymore.
No.
Okay, there's reasons for these things. Putin didn't wake up in February 2022 and say, I'm having a bad fucking day, let's go into Ukraine. That's not the way it works. Doesn't mean you have to be on his side. It doesn't mean you have to be against him. It just means understand the story behind this, understand the reason, and that's what worries me, Mike, because I think at this point, we don't have to do this war,
No.
but I think he does. Or at least I think he thinks he does. I think Russians believe, and this is not Putin, this is writ large in the Russian political class. They all are on the same page with this stuff. I think they believe this is it.
Well, it's an
That they
existential threat to
have
them.
to fight this.
This is their Cuban Missile Crisis, right?
Worse.
Yeah. I mean, because you're talking about putting Ukraine right on their doorstep into NATO.
And they're doing it in Georgia now, too.
You know, Georgia's being, because they're trying to, we're going to encircle him. No. You know, NATO has become one of the biggest, disasters of all time. The Atlantic Council and all these other groups are attached to NATO and all these different things. And NATO is now fighting a rainbow war or whatever. They talked about recently, a tweet, one of the NATO members said something like that recently, as a high-up person in that command. They're basically talking about information warfare and instigating chaos and instigating these
Oh, they've been
uprisings.
doing that for a while. It's in the charter now.
That's what it was. They put it in the charter,
digital warfare.
Digital
basically.
warfare, right? They put it in the charter. That was what that tweet was about. But at the end of the day, all this is doing is destabilizing the world.
But that's the idea.
You're poking a bear and trying to create conditions for a nuclear war.
Well, they don't. Well, the gamble is that they don't believe that it will come to a nuclear war, right? And maybe it won't, but I don't really want to take that gamble.
Why would you? Why kill all these innocent people for no reason? Why start a war?
Because they don't care. Because in the end, what they want...
It's so immoral. But
they say it's... Listen, Lindsey Graham, your boy...
Oh, I fucking hate that.
Had an interview on Hannity maybe 2 weeks ago, whatever. You could see this on YouTube. You could just pull it up. Where this guy doesn't hide anything. I mean, he was talking about the way I'll use his word, are going to, quote unquote, enrich ourselves with Ukrainian resources.
Yeah.
That's the idea. Like, they don't even try to hide this anymore.
No, they don't.
Just say it straight out. And of course, Sean Hannity stands there and says nothing because he loves this guy for some reason. But that was literally, Mike, you could Google it right now. Go on YouTube.
I don't have to. I've seen enough of that guy to know exactly how he is. And I mean, look, they don't hide it anymore. But the problem is, like we talked about this in the last video, people don't pay attention anymore, right? As Americans, we used to pay a lot more attention to what was going on. We used to be a lot more informed and a lot more aware of the things our government was doing in a lot of ways. And we used to be very much opposed to these things. Me and Rick were talking earlier about the difference during the Vietnam War, where the names of the dead would be listed off on the nightly news, and that was where a lot of that opposition for that war came from, was the fact that so many men were dying, and people were like, what are we dying for?
Right.
So there was a lot more of a consciousness, a conscious awareness of those things back then. Whereas now, we're talking about what Bush said after the 9/11 thing, right?
Yeah. So what did he say? Go shopping. That's what, and again, I love the way George Bush handled 9/11 for the most part. But that right there, what the idea is, Mike, and this is part of the revolution in military affairs that took place in the 1990s. Part of it is, and we see this effect on Ukraine, is part of the reason why Ukraine is losing is because they listen to us, right?
Yeah.
So the idea is as small a footprint as possible. And you remember that from the Iraq War, right? That's why the surge was such a big deal, because it went against our doctrine. We're not supposed to throw so many people in there. It's supposed to be a small footprint, and you want to hide it from the general public. In other words, you guys go shopping while you get your ass shot off. That's the idea. So when Bush banned the televising the caskets coming home.
Dover Air Force Base.
Yeah. So these are ways just to hide it from us, because they don't want that, what you were talking about, where Walter Cronkite's reporting on this every night from Vietnam, and we're seeing this, and it makes people question and say, well, what's going on? Why are we there? Nobody has to question this now, because you don't really get to see the evils of war. And again, I'm not a pacifist. Wars do have to happen at some point.
Absolutely. Listen, sometimes you need an armed response. Sometimes you've got to, diplomacy is great, and I'm all for it. But there are times when diplomacy fails, or when despots have to be taken out. Absolutely.
Yeah, especially if they're a threat to us, like a real threat to us, our sovereignty, or our well-being, or our way of life. Yes,
I agree.
But just for political purposes, no, I don't go for that. But I don't. Look, I've been on the losing side of arguments many, many times. I have my opinion. We do live in a democracy, and if I'm in the minority on something, I'm in the minority. I just want everybody to think about it, to have information. So look at the heat Tucker Carlson got just for interviewing Putin, and now he's out there interviewing Lavrov, who's the Minister of Defense. The Minister of Defense over there. These people should be interviewed all the time. We should be hearing this. We should be hearing what they have to say. What are they afraid of? We should be able to come to the conclusions we want. Mike, I specifically remember, this is what put CNN on the map. Remember the first Gulf War?
Yep.
Tariq Aziz, who was the Sergei Lavrov of Iraq, was interviewed all the time.
Yeah.
Saddam Hussein was interviewed.
Yeah.
Gaddafi was interviewed.
Yeah.
That's the way it's supposed to be. We're supposed to hear what these people say, and if they really truly are so bad, we'll know.
Yeah, it'll come through. You'll see it, and you'll see it in their actions and how they treat their own people.
Right. So I want to see what Sergei Lavrov has to say, and it's a shame that I have to, we have to almost feel guilty, like we're being treasonous, by listening to Tucker Carlson interview this guy. Every freaking network should be out there trying to get an interview with that guy. Every single network.
They're all working together, right, to defraud you and everybody around you.
Yeah.
You know,
and I get it. Media loves war. This has been going on since the early 1900s.
was it the media saying if it bleeds, it leads, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. So the yellow journalism all the way back in the past. It sells papers.
Sure.
It gets clicks nowadays.
Yeah,
I
clickbait,
get that, but their job is still to give us as much information as possible. And again, if we truly are the good guys, if we truly are in the right, then the average American will see that. What are they worried about?
I don't think we've been the good guys in decades. Honestly, my personal opinion. And listen, I served, right? I fought. And I don't think we've been the good guys in a very, very long time. Not overall. Not in the big arc. If you look at the overall historical arc.
No, historically, we were the good guys.
Historically, yes. I mean, but I'm talking about the last, 3 or 4 decades or so.
I agree.
So basically anything after the Korean War, I would say we probably pretty much lost our way,
I don't know. I differ with you on that. I think there was a gradual thing. I still think
I don't think it was an overnight turn.
We were the good guys.
I don't think it was an overnight turn.
Yeah.
But I just think we've gotten very, very far. I think that was that's maybe the starting point, but that might not be right either, because really the starting point was the start of the intelligence community after World War II really kind of started to shift. But
I personally think it was the end of the Cold War when we really became, because there was no check on us anymore. The Soviets provided at least a check on us.
Balance of power.
Yeah. Now we basically are in charge of the world, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's an old saying, and it's true.
That's an excellent point.
And I think since that point, excuse me, I spit there.
This guy's on fire tonight.
I think at that point is when we really did start to lose our good guy image.
Without a doubt.
Listen, we were the people who fed Europe after World War I. We were the people who airlifted shit into West Berlin for a year to get those people medicine and supplies.
Yeah.
We were fucking good guys. So I'm never going to say America is bad.
I think it's bad. I just think it's gotten off. I think we've kind of lost our way.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think at this point,
it's not Americans as a whole.
It used to be where you saw good things happening, there was an American fingerprint. Now at this point, it seems where there's death, destruction, and despair, there's an American fingerprint.
Well, yeah, because look at the Middle East. Look at all the finagling and all the games we've played in the Middle East. Look at the 20-year war in Afghanistan. Just turn it back over to the Taliban.
Yeah.
$1 trillion+ spent for what?
And
how many American lives ruined? And
now we're funding the guy that was fighting us in Afghanistan and Iraq so that he could fight the people who we say are bad guys in Syria.
And Syria is just going to be basically Afghanistan 2.0, but rather than a large American footprint, but there is a footprint. There are troops there in Syria. Don't be fooled. It's going to be a smaller footprint, but again, they're still making their money.
Listen, Trump ordered our people out of Syria, and they ignored his order.
Yeah, they left him there.
And he did nothing about it. Now let's see. He's got a second chance. So let's see if he comes in now.
He's got to come in like gangbusters, man.
And
he really does.
Says, I want us out of Syria. Because again, if you could explain to me why Syria is important, what the fuck I care about Assad, I don't care. And I don't know how the people there really feel. Because we're never told the truth. Maybe there's a good contingent of people there that like him. I have no idea. I don't know.
It's you can't be the world police, right? And you can't inflict your ideas upon the rest of the world. And I've been all over the world. And I've met amazingly wonderful people all over the world. And I've met really evil people all over the world. And everything in between. But trying to impress upon other people your so-called, reality, is just not going to work. I understand the State Department's whole big thing is LGBTQ alphabet mafia nonsense and DEI and whatever crap.
Well,
yeah.
Look at what diversity is now the strength in Syria.
Diversity is a strength.
I cannot believe that came out of that man's mouth. That had to be it had to be. You want the check? You want the weapons? Here's what you got to say.
He copied and pasted it. What do you guys want? Oh, okay, no problem. Here, yeah, we'll throw that shit out there. Because as soon as we're done here, we're gonna go ahead and start throwing people off buildings again and burning them alive.
Of course.
Listen, you know what? It's more the same card game. It's more the same distraction, right? So look over here while I do this. Well, meanwhile over here we're making all this money.
But again, I think it comes back to the end of the Cold War. NATO needed a reason for being. You have to have an enemy, right? And look, defensive peacetime alliances. NATO was the exception for a long time, but historically, peacetime alliances fail. They lead to war. because they lead to distrust, right? Because the other country has to be thinking, well, wait a minute, we're at peace. Why are you guys organizing here? Why are you coming together like that? It must be because you're planning something on us. So now they got to go get allies, right? And this builds up. And historically, that's
it makes sense.
always the way it's been, right?
And it makes sense. It's a rational, logical thought.
It is a rational thing. Now, listen, NATO, I'll go into one other thing. I guess it's a little off the topic, but one of the problems I have with Trump, with his views on NATO, is he's always talking about how, well, they're not contributing. But to me, that's not the issue. You know, the issue should be, do we need a NATO?
Yeah.
If we do need a NATO, what is its goal going to be? What is its job going to be? And so forth. Because people tend to forget, Mike, that part of the reason for NATO was to be a defense against Soviet expansion.
Yeah, exactly.
But, Mike, there was another reason for it. If you think of Europe, from 1945 all the way backwards, that continent was always at war.
Sure.
Always at war.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons it was always at war is because of those peacetime alliances and because of military buildup and distrust and everything. So when NATO was created, the reason why America took on such a role, we don't want those countries rearming. I think Trump is wrong. We don't want those countries rearming. Part of the whole goal of us being the big man in NATO, the first among equals kind of, was so that they don't have to do that. In other words, we'll take care of it for you. We'll have our bases all, and again, it was the right thing, the right mindset at least, right? We'll have our bases all over Europe. We'll protect you so that you don't need to build up your militaries and go after each other. The last thing we really want is for France to build up real big and Germany to build up real big and Russia, Ukraine, and all of these countries. So I think Trump is wrong there. Or at least he's looking at the wrong thing. I don't give a damn how much Lithuania spends on defense. What I care about is peace. And if NATO's able to keep the peace, I don't care that we're spending more as long as that objective is met. But that objective is not being met because since the end of the Cold War, Mike, there's been nothing but war. Not on the European continent until Ukraine.
Until Ukraine, yeah.
But all over the place. There's war, and now we are on the cusp of World War III because, again, I don't think Russia has a way out. I really don't. We have a way out. They don't have a way out. I think that they're stuck.
Yeah,
I mean, what's their way out?
Well, I think...
how do they get out of this saving face and so
Well,
forth?
Zelensky already came out and said that he came out recently, last day or two, in an interview saying basically he knows he's not getting back land that Russia took already. So if you think Donetsk, Luhansk, Crimea, Russia's probably going to keep those ethnically Russian areas anyway.
Right.
And so I think that's the way out. I think Russia gets the
Yeah, but in
ethnically
exchange
Russian
for that,
areas.
he wants NATO membership, and there's not a chance in the world.
No, he's not getting NATO
If
membership.
Putin goes back to his people and says, all right, I'm going to allow Ukraine into NATO in exchange for land.
No, you can't.
He's dead the next day.
Yeah, of course, because it's insane. The last thing you want is NATO on your doorstep, right?
Right.
If NATO is completely and diametrically built just to oppose you, the last thing you're going to do as a leader of that nation is say, oh, yeah, we're just going to let NATO stay on our doorstep. No, absolutely not. You're not going to do that.
So that goes back to what I'm saying. Like, I don't see how Russia has a way out of this. And we should be trying to give them an exit ramp if we really want peace. But I just think that, I think we're balls deep. I think it's going to be hard for Trump to get out. I think at this point it's almost impossible for Putin to do anything but expand this war.
I don't know. I think he could. I think when Trump comes into office, it might be a different. The government right now, their administration right now under Biden and Blinken and these other idiots, is definitely not going to give him any kind of exit ramp. They want him on that front, fighting that war as long as possible.
Yes, and they don't even communicate with him. At least Trump will communicate.
It's been over 2 years.
Yeah.
Over 2 years.
Yeah.
How the hell are you not talking to them?
It's sick.
What the hell is wrong with you?
You should be on the phone with them all the time if the goal was you really wanted peace, but they don't.
They don't want peace. They want to keep the money machine going, which is this war.
So Trump will talk. I'll give Trump that. Trump will try.
I think he'll bring them to the table. I think he'll find some way to negotiate this thing and bring it to a conclusion. I think Russia keeps Crimea, Luhansk, and Donetsk. Hopefully I'm pronouncing those right. I'm sorry if I'm not. I think he'll keep those ethnically Russian regions. I think Ukraine keeps the rest of its stuff there, and I think that's it. It becomes a stalemate in that way.
Yeah,
I don't think NATO ever gets
loss for Ukraine. I don't think we're going to go for that.
What Ukraine has to. I mean, they're going to take the L. it is what it is. They got to take the loss.
Well, listen, Trump's already said he'll arm them to the teeth if he has to. So I really don't know. And then he puts this guy Keith Kellogg in charge. And again, I know this guy's an actor on Fox News, so I can't take his past comments too seriously. Right. But that's all we have are his past comments, and he is a complete hawk against Russia and a complete hawk in the Ukraine war. And this is the guy that Trump put in as his envoy. And again, I understand deep down inside on anybody on cable TV, even your boy Pete Hegseth, they play a role.
Of course they do.
It's a part. It's just like, George Jefferson wasn't really an owner of a dry cleaning establishment, right? But we tend to think he was because we watch the Jeffersons. Yeah. These people on Fox News and on CNN and MS, they're actors. They play a part. So I'm hoping that this guy Keith Kellogg was just playing the part that got him to be a paid correspondent. I don't know. But I don't see any way out of this. I think this is the first chapter of World War III, my man.
God, I hope not.
And it's really connected with Syria, and it's connected with China.
Well, yeah, it's connected with Syria. It's connected with China. Now. Sure, it's all connected. I mean, China and Russia have that, uninhibited, whatever you want to call it, alliance now, right? That complete alliance. And Syria is being, Assad's regime in Syria is being backed by the Russians. So, of course, we're on the other side with these crazies. They've created a world that's completely destabilized in that war everywhere, and they really are pushing for a World War III.
They are. And
in their minds, they think somehow we're going to be able to stomp the whole world and take over the entire world, and then we'll be in charge of everything. Like, no, enough.
Well, look, after 9/11, that became our goal, right? The only way we could be safe is if we control everything.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
And that's it. But even again, Trump, who. I still have hope for, and I don't take things too seriously yet because he hasn't been inaugurated yet. So right now it's just words. But even today, he says there's going to be 100% tariff on BRICS countries if they attempt to
try
get
to
off
undermine
the dollar.
Yeah.
Now,
I saw that.
you're dealing with countries like China and Russia. They don't deal well with threats. They're not. They can't. They're dictators. They can't explain to their people, I'm backing down to Donald Trump because I'm afraid that he's really going to do this. They're not going to respond like that.
He's big on rhetoric, and he used it a lot, pretty effectively too the first time around. He did use it effectively for some of the trade agreements, some of the other stuff he did. So I think this is more the same with that. I think he's just kind of doubling down on that whole mentality and that whole way of doing things.
And I think
we'll see.
Right.
I mean, you're right though. He hasn't been inaugurated yet.
No.
And we could look at his cabinet picks and say we think this, that, and the other, but the reality is, talking about it as a talking head on cable news is vastly different than actually being the guy on the ground making those decisions.
And that's what I'm hoping. And again,
so we'll see how that plays out too. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Now listen, sometimes the threats, it worked for Reagan with the Iranian hostages. Trump made a very similar threat now for the hostages in
to be held to pay if they're not up by January 20th, yeah.
I get the feeling it'll work like it did for Reagan. I think those I'm hoping, I get a feeling those hostages will be released.
That's one I think he'll actually back up.
I think he'll back it up.
I think he'll back that threat up. So I
don't think they're going to give him a chance to back it up though, because I think
I think they'll be released by the time he gets there. Anybody that can be released.
But the tough guy rhetoric to Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin, and it's not the same. You want to have that rhetoric against the Iranian mullahs. They can't do shit. I don't know. I don't like that rhetoric. It's sounding very Biden-esque. But again, I think you're maybe right. Trump's rhetoric and actions are often two different things. So we'll see when he
ordered
becomes
the deal,
president.
Right? That's his whole mentality. It's his whole thing. He ordered the deal, right? And this is him. You ask for, 200% so that you get the 100% you want, right?
Yeah.
That's his whole
basic
premise of how he does things.
But Mike, if he doesn't stop this Ukraine war, this is World War III.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
There's no in between.
Without a doubt.
It either
if it doesn't stop, it is 100% going to be World War III.
It has to
100%.
Be. It has to.
Because there's no way at that point, if you allow this to go on in any way, shape, or form, and you arm them to the teeth, where else can it go?
It can't go anywhere else, and that's why I want to ask all of our thousands and thousands of viewers out there, do you really think all with the waving of the Ukrainian flag and I stand with Ukraine, fine, whatever, you really willing to do World War III over that? Really? You willing to go to World War III to save Lugansk, Zaporizhia, what's the other ones there? Donetsk, and Crimea already is gone.
Gone already. It's
There's one other oblast there. You really willing to go to World War III? Is that it? Is that the line in the sand? After 80 years of peace in Europe, that's it? That's what you want? That's what you want World War III over? We didn't go to World War III over Berlin. We worked it out. We didn't go to World War III over Cuba. We worked it out. You're going to tell me we can't work it out in Ukraine? Seriously? And you know Biden has done everything he can to make sure Trump has an even harder chance.
Yeah, he's trying to sandbag him as much as he can because he want to keep the war going because it's about mineral rights and about resources and about other things.
We're going to enrich ourselves. Lindsey Graham said it. Lindsey Graham said it.
How evil do you have to be?
Lindsey Graham said it. Listen,
how evil.
This podcast would never be allowed in the dictatorship of Ukraine because they censor all this stuff. But if any Ukrainians are out there listening to this, go watch Lindsey Graham. I understand you're patriotic. I get it. You want to protect your country just like we would want to protect ours. Absolutely. I get it. I don't question that. Absolutely. I admire their bravery. But your people are dying so Lindsey Graham can enrich America.
And more money. And
he said it. Chris Christie said, your people are dying so we could send a message to China. You good with that, Ukrainians? Because if you're good with that, I'm good with that. It's your country.
That's an awful sacrifice to make. Don't do that.
It sure is. But if they're good with it, fine. But let them know. But there's so much censorship there. This democracy that has no elections. The only democracy in the history of the world, by the way, that doesn't have elections.
Yeah, he suspended all elections.
Yeah, it's a brand new kind of democracy.
Yeah. It's called authoritarianism.
So there's censorship, there's no elections, it's a brand new kind of democracy. But those poor Ukrainian people, Mike, who are suffering like this, do they know that this is so a fat bastard former governor of New Jersey can send a message to China?
Douchebags.
And some closeted whatever from South Carolina can enrich America, and those poor men and those poor boys are dying over there.
When he says enrich America, he's not talking about Americans in general. Because
he's talking about us.
Not talking about us, right? You're talking about a very, very small group of would-be elitists that are making that money. That's really all it is. It's a very, very small cabal of people.
Yeah, the people who donated to our congressman who waved the Ukrainian flag in the U.S. Capitol when they passed the $60 billion funding. Remember that?
Yeah.
The U.S. Capitol were waving foreign flags. Why? Because the donors who put their asses in that building want them to. That's why.
That's exactly why. They're just showing you exactly who's paying for their seat.
Yep.
Right? Because most of them are bought and paid for. And that's the reality of politics in America.
USA. Anyway, we done?
We're done. Listen, like, comment,
that was a funny story,
subscribe. That was great.
The new Syria, boys and girls. Diversity is their strength.
What the fuck?
From the leader of ISIS. Diversity is their strength.
One question before we turn this thing off.
That would be like fucking Hitler showing up at a synagogue. Are you kidding me?
How much more ridiculous does it have to get for everybody out there to start to wake up to the bullshit? I mean, really, how much more ridiculous does it have to get?
My God.
You know, come on. It's time to get in the conversation. So do us a favor. Like, subscribe, share this stuff out. Let's get this conversation going. Let's get Americans and everybody else out there talking about this stuff.
Syria is the new California, Mike.
Fucking retarded. Let's send Gavin Newsom there. That'd be great. All right. Anyway,
you gotta love it,
guys. Like, subscribe, comment, share this thing out. Help us get this channel growing so we can keep this conversation going.
Peace.
Thank you all. We love you. Until I see you in the next one.